He's like, no,
You're not
a
taking my
chance
daughter.
in hell. Are you taking her out on a date? And I was like, yes, sir.
I respect that.
Yeah, date canceled. I freaking booked out of there.
Hey, this is Zach. I got Alex and our buddy Mason here today. This is the Road to Nowhere podcast. Today we cover some good stuff. We talk about the CPAP machine being a big turn on for our wives. And we talk about he did some hard time over in Nam. So we recount that.
I survived.
What do you think of the set right now, dude?
It's freaking sweet, dude.
Have you seen it yet?
From this line over, it looks like a complete shithole.
We don't
tell them that.
Yeah, we don't
from
let
here
them
back,
see that.
this seems really nice.
Yeah, it's real, right?
Yeah. I kind of think that's like an indicator of how you live your life. It's like
100%. What you're seeing is put together, but really behind the scenes is total crap.
Yeah, I like it. It feels natural.
Yeah.
It's good.
Dude, you just went to Vietnam.
This is the first time I felt like I can say back in Nam and it like makes sense.
Yeah. You've been using that line since we were kids.
Yeah,
so long.
back in Nam.
It's been really
you haven't
offensive.
been there.
Well, you know, I worked with this guy. His name was Neil, and when I was like a little kid, and he used to always say, "Back on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, I was taking enemy fire," and I had no idea what he was talking about. And then we were over there, and we came across the Ho Chi Minh Trail where there was like a bunch of epic battles, and I was like, Neil,
Dude,
my guy.
For Neil.
He's like, taking enemy fire. I was only armed with a trowel, like a concrete tool. I was like, wow, this guy's
How old were you? Like 12, and you're just sweeping the floors, and some old vet comes up to you. Back in Nam, back in my day.
Well,
You're like, Dad?
well, remember when I was a kid, I had a full-time
Yeah.
job.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
all year long, I'm out like working away, and Zach's like cruising by getting a Slurpee with his buddies. Hey, I'm like,
He's blading by on some TRSs.
Yeah, I was on my rollerblades, man.
our childhood was very different, but somehow like intertwined.
Yeah, where it did meet up is rollerblading was big in our lives, and you're like, hey, come over to this. It's a pretty chill half pipe. We were in third
the
grade.
half pipe.
We were in third grade, and Mason's like, yeah, just drop in on this 12-foot half pipe. Mason's over there doing grabs and all types of stuff, and I literally fell, and my butt cheeks like caught one cheek and ripped my butt so bad. I just started crying, and I remember Mason being like, telling somebody else, I told you this was gonna happen.
Like I had a vet for you before you
you're
came.
like,
I was
hey,
like,
this kid most likely is gonna eat it and cry.
You had those premonitions a lot as a kid, though,
For
right?
sure.
You're like, hey,
He's probably gonna cry most of the time he comes over.
but I think you might be the first person that's ever tore their sphincter on a
Yeah,
half pipe.
at an early age. I was so young and couldn't diagnose what was going on. I'm just like, this is very painful.
What year did you move in to Centerville?
We moved to Utah when I was in third grade.
so that would have been
Yeah,
95, 94, no, 90, no, because
90
the Niners won the Super
Yeah,
Bowl in 94, and that was
1994.
in Centerville, so
Is that how you guys gauge time? Is like
for sure.
Niners,
Yeah,
All
the Super
Niners.
Bowl.
stats.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 94 team. Well, everything, that's kind of like your, like BC, AD, like timeline for
Yeah.
us, right? Like,
because when we moved to Utah, for some reason, all of a sudden I was like, dude, we can make friends. Before it was just we didn't have any friends in California, and we get to Utah and we were just hits.
see, I was the
Oh,
opposite.
when someone moves in from now everyone hates people that move from California.
Yeah.
But back then it was like California guys.
People
dude.
thought we were like we were like from Northern California.
Oh, you remember, but do you remember you moved to Centerville and all of a sudden people were asking if you want to pop and you just wanted to punch them right in the neck every
Yeah.
time they'd say that word. It's like you eat a soda, like a soda.
We call it soda
Yeah, it's a
in
soda.
California.
Yeah.
Not a pop.
No,
I don't
They
think anyone
treated-
calls it pop.
They
anymore.
treated us like we were like Zach Morris moving into town.
Oh, I remember. I was smitten by you, dude.
Yeah.
Zach
Yeah.
Helm, the California legend.
But back to when I ripped my butthole. Speaking of that, colonoscopies, we're all getting older and we're pushing 40. What year are you going in and being like, hey, let's get it checked
Oh,
up?
40's a big year for me, dude. I just ordered a CPAP machine.
It is a big
dude.
year.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
big decision.
Yeah, you gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta give us the backstory of what was going on. How did you
Well,
figure out you needed
okay.
that?
Well, I mean, I thought my wife was lying to me all these years about how bad my snoring is. I was like, hey, it's not that bad.
I feel like snorers do this a lot. They antagonize the accuser. Like, no, they're in the wrong.
It's definitely a
Uh-huh.
defense mechanism to be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then I got an app where you record your snoring, and it is absurd. My snoring.
You
I
record it.
sound like an animal.
What app is this?
It's called Snore Lab.
wow.
and you just record yourself snoring.
Yeah, it's called Snore Lab, and it categorizes the level of snoring between like low, medium, high, and then epic. I spent 5 hours in epic.
God.
You should be. That's awesome, though,
I
right?
know epic is a weird title.
Epic
for
sounds
it.
way too cool for like a really bad snorer.
Okay, so I'm spending 5 hours a night in epic, which means I'm like not getting any oxygen.
Yeah.
And Cassie, she's like out. She's like always on the couch. She's like hitting me all night. So I try like mouthpieces, nose things. I'm trying all the different apparatuses to like get it to function. Finally, I bite the bullet. I go do a sleep study, and they're like, "Yeah, full on mask, the pipes, the machine."
Oh my gosh.
Oh shoot! And yeah, it's coming soon.
Has this has it been like maybe like a turn on, like a better thing for your love life? Like you're hey, Cassie, are you in the mood?
It's like the good thing is
It's
she's
very
super.
Bane. It's like,
She's
you're like Bane.
she's really into like Maverick from Top Gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like
It's like Maverick just talking to Goose. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, it gets her going. But the problem is I am like I put it off for years because
Yeah.
I'm like I don't want to be this old freaking loser that has to like when I go on a trip with my dudes I'm like carrying
Half your suitcase.
But I'm embracing it. I'm
Make sure you load your apnea machine with stickers. Like make it look cool.
Oh.
Like make it look really cool. Put
That's
some
good.
sweet,
Some of those
like,
ones that like
Vans.
shine.
Put like a
too.
van sticker on there. Some cool like
Yeah.
skate
The
stickers.
holographic
make
looking
sure my
ones.
kids are like, oh, I want one of those.
Yeah, make it look cool.
Like 40, I'm getting some moles removed.
Okay.
Gonna get my eyes checked. You know, like my colon. Gonna get that baby cleaned out.
Yeah.
I heard you don't have like for colonoscopies now. My neighbor is telling me this is you don't have to go in. They send you a box and you just poop in a box.
That's it.
You send it in.
I've always had,
That sounds pretty awesome.
yeah, I've just always had Kelsey just check.
Yeah,
Once
but
in a
you're
while.
pooping in boxes all the time anyway, so it just be right up your
You
alley.
are for the course.
Are you a closet box pooper?
Yeah. I mean,
Not
I just
closet. He's very open about.
Were you like the
he
kid
sends it to the-
on the playground that would like dig a hole in the sand and just freaking?
I was the one climbing up. We called it atomic bombs, but you'd climb up to the the top of the boy's stall, and you would try and land in the
Aim it.
toilet. Yeah.
That's probably why you remember us when we moved in. We were dropping atomic bombs when we moved to Utah.
That's a big California
we were-
thing.
yeah,
cool.
big California thing, and kids were just didn't know how to.
well, you've
handle
been
us.
you've been to San Francisco lately. You
Tons
can
of
tell.
atomic
Yeah.
bombs everywhere.
As you're getting older, what other things are you experiencing that's like kind of surprising to you?
Well, I really, you know this about me, but I've become very obsessed with like routine as I've gotten older. I used to be a little bit more of like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy, which I think is what me and you had a lot in common when we were younger.
Yeah,
But now I'm very much a routine, like
I'm
strategy, systems kind of guy to run my life.
I'm jealous of it though. I actually look up to it. I wish I could do that.
Me and you are polar opposites in that way.
We are that way. We have the same build, the same body,
Absolutely.
exactly the same.
Everything else is identical. Except
But
for
you
that.
got to hear his structure, Alex. He's like, I mean,
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear your like.
Yeah, give us
start,
an
what time are you
example.
waking up?
I'm a 4:45 alarm guy.
Oh my god!
Don't look at me like that.
Wait,
you
he's-
just look disgusted.
it's
at
hard.
me.
You got it. When you're an epic sleeper,
Yeah. Remember, I'm only getting I'm only getting 2 hours
How-
of good sleep anyway.
I can only imagine going from like being in an epic sleep to just your 4:45 alarm. Cassie, for sure, has to love you very much.
She's a saint, dude. She
Yeah.
puts up with my ridiculousness. Yeah, 4:45 alarm. I'm out in the gym. I got a gym in my barn. I'm at 5 a.m.
Is this
Gym
you
time.
solo, or do you have somebody like a neighbor coming to meet up with you?
About 5:30, I got 3 other neighbors that come to the barn.
Oh, nice.
And we work out. So I'm like
The Barn Boys.
the barn boys.
Yeah. And the first half hour, you just kind of look at yourself in the mirror.
We actually don't call ourselves the barn boys. I just want to clearly
No,
identify
they're the
that.
barn boys.
Cut that part. The
Yeah,
Barn Boys.
Barn
so
Boys
back to the Barn
stays.
Boys.
Yeah, so we're actually starting to work out like at 5:30.
Yeah.
cool.
But part of me hates talking about my morning routine because I kind of sound like this like win the morning, win the day kind of
Yeah.
guy.
Because we've actually on this pod discussed like, why not win the night? And
Yeah.
we are night winners.
We
You're a
do.
morning winner.
That's true. I'm not a night winner. I'm like a sleep as soon
Yeah.
as possible.
Mason's the type when you're at his house at like 10 and he starts to get tired, he won't like say, all right, time to go. He'll just start shutting the lights off. And it's like very passive aggressive, like get the hell out of here. I'm going to bed. I'm about to head into epic sleep.
That's more on aggressive than passive
Yeah.
side.
It
You're-
is. It's lights, and then if they don't catch the hit, then I just pop the top off. I just
Yep.
shirtless. And
He's
be like-
just hanging in his G's.
Oh, that would be.
So what like you're also on your structure, you'll have like, hey, text wife, I love you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So is it written down? Like, do you have like a notepad you flip out? You're like, okay, check, did that today. Barn Boys.
I should have brought my Barn Boys. I should have brought my book to show you, but I'm very much like every single thing, and it maybe comes across to Cassie that I'm not like genuine because of, like I call her at the same time every day, but I took the time to like set up the task, and that's where the genuine. I love her, so I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I do that, but it's like I check those boxes every day, and I can go back and be like, did I do these things? And I start to track, like every month I put a percentage. I did that in 80% of the time. And it's things like, what time did I get home? I track the time I get home every day. I track how much water I drink. I track almost everything you can track. Like how many pages did I read per day? How many, like all that. It's like categorized in a book.
Are you trying to find a healthier balance of like not being so rigid? Or are you like this is what you're going for?
I like it for me.
Yeah.
It works for me.
That's great.
Because like I try to like be like an all well-rounded kind of guy, and sometimes I'll get like I can get obsessed with things, so I get really focused on like one, and then I forget all the others. So all these reminders and tasks like keep me.
So when you
all
call
of them.
Cassie, because it's like
I read the
it's a
script. I read the
checklist. Is there a
script.
script? Hello, wife.
Hello,
Hello,
Cassie.
Cassie.
Agreed.
Today is Wednesday at 5:30.
Do you accidentally say check mark like
mission
audio?
complete?
Mission complete.
She'll answer the phone and be like, "Time for my daily call," and I'm like, "Yep." Like she makes fun of it, but
Yeah. How long is that conversation typically?
oh, it's just quick. Maybe 1 to 2 minutes. How you doing? Anything going on today? What's up? Just checking in.
You do that with your wife?
I struggle to do that because it usually ends up into, hey, I need you to do this, and this, and then I gotta, and I'm not right. I don't flip out my notebook and I don't have that access, right?
Yeah.
That you do. So when she asks me these things, I'm gonna forget several of them, and that could have consequences later that affect me as a night man.
We're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the routine of it becomes like at first it can be like, oh, you're gonna like you call and like, oh, there's an opportunity, but I'm like doing it so regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it works for us. Cassie might think it's annoying, but it works, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like all my other like routine. Like I have a thing for calling my parents to check in on them, and like certain things I got to go check in and do. Like
I need to do it. I mean, when you say this, I'm like, I need to like start doing that more often. I kind of like, I just wing it.
Is it just phone reminders? Or are you just setting like iPhone reminders?
I use
like
Asana. Do you know Asana?
No.
It's like a task management platform.
Dude.
My whole life is run through Asana.
The best
Really?
part about at Mason, we have our business. Mason comes from his own business. He's like created this construction company. They've been awesome, but we have done stuff so differently. Like you are like by the book, you know exactly A to B. Like me and Alex, we wing it so much.
Yeah, ours is more like
We could find a better balance.
like a little bit of exposure to get sued.
Yeah.
Yours
yeah,
is more.
you're not living unless you've got one, like served that day.
Oh, we've been served many a times. It just pops up in an Asana task.
Oh,
It's
deal
not-
with lawsuit.
The thing is that I can trace this like difference between us and you back to when we were kids, because like we were just rolling around the neighborhood looking for food on a regular basis, like trying to scrounge around.
Yeah.
And I was like carrying a full-time job.
You had a full time job. Yeah, dude, it's funny. Like now that we're getting older, one thing that like I'm changing. I noticed this. I'm way more emotional. Like I was just the other day. I was watching Cool Runnings with my kids.
A beautiful. That's a
But I
beautiful
literally-
show.
I started crying like 5 times during that movie, and I was thinking, this is John Candy needs an Academy Award for this.
Yeah.
It really is.
That
like,
is a great movie. My kids love it.
it is a great movie, but I was almost every movie now, or every like good moment in a movie, I'm like,
Hey
it
Zach,
hurts, and I'm
Zach,
still too stubborn to cry out.
are you dead, man?
You dead man? Yeah, my kids love that now.
Well, is that movie you cry because you're thinking about the nostalgia of being a kid and watching
No,
that show?
absolutely not.
It's
No,
the
it
story.
just feels. That's a good movie. It just feels good.
That's a good movie, but it's not to me. I watch it and I'm not like
Dude,
gripped by
when
the
they're lifting the bobsled at the end of that movie. You can't. There's not a dry eye in the house.
I'm pretty sure they're all dry, but yours.
No,
Yeah.
it was. That's how I am with everything now. Like every movie.
Any movie that's related to like kids or specifically brothers, because I have 4 boys.
Mhm.
So any movie that's got like a brother relationship, I'm just a freaking mess, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, what? So the bobsled team.
I should rewatch that. It's been too
Rewatch
long.
it and try not to cry. The problem is I got that too much like that Irish pride in me where I'm not gonna like show people that I cry.
So what kind of crier are you? Like
I
if you're in
just,
public.
it just hurts my chest and my eyes, and it kind of like I'm watery, but I'm not gonna so I'm not going to sit there and like tears aren't going to be falling off my face, but it's because I'm not letting it happen.
Yeah.
Because I'm embarrassed still.
What about you, Al? Are you a crier?
No, the same way.
We're
I'm the
dude, we
same
got
way.
this. We
Like,
do not
right
show
now, I'm getting
weakness.
emotional thinking about him getting emotional.
Yeah.
And it just wells up in you, you know?
Yeah.
No, not really. I'm good here.
You know what my
We're
favorite
good.
kind of criers are the ones that try to like grunt out of it. They're like,
That's me.
Yeah.
Not a bitch.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
It's not me.
clear their throat like it's gonna just go away.
Yeah.
Well, you as a father too, like you're trying to wean your kids off of crying, right? Like, hey, this isn't cool, right? So you like if you break down and cry in front of them, it takes off years of
My
your
kids
effort.
will literally say this, like, Dad, I've seen you cry one time. I'm like, it was at like the airport when we messed up with their passports, and I was just like
You had to
broke
leave 'em.
down, and I was just openly crying. But that's the only time I've let them see me cry, which I probably should more. Even like Cool Runnings, I should be just bawling in front of them.
Yeah,
But I don't want them to be like, all right, Dad, I'm uncomfortable.
it's
Dad
good.
cries
It's
all the
good
time."
for them to see you cry.
For sure.
I cried hard in Onward. You guys see that animated Pixar movie? You guys gotta see it.
We gotta see it.
It's a good brother flick. I
Yeah.
bawled like a baby.
And your kids are just standing there like, Dad.
Yeah, they
Get it
got to the
together?
point where they were like, "Hey, Dad, like, come on."
That's nice though.
It was like, like catching my breath, crying.
And then you consulted your task, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, quit being a bitch.
It's like steps to
Moving
breathing.
on.
It's like, okay, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
yeah. Get in your apnea machine.
Quick, give me my CPAP.
Oh, what about as you're older? Do you get more agitated by things? Are you like, where are you like you're finding yourself being like a Karen as you get older?
There's a very few things that get me freaking just fired up.
Yeah.
But one of them is when people are talking in a movie theater behind me, I'll just freaking snap.
Harv, we had Harv on the podcast. We had Harv on this like 7 or 8 episodes ago, and he brought up the fact that you almost beat up like a 12-year-old at a movie theater.
He was like 15, but yeah.
Yeah. Like
I
a
just-
mature 15
For-
too,
he was-
right?
He was like medium sized, 15-year-old. But like, I don't see them. I don't go to the movies very often. And
Yeah.
it's got to be a good experience. And this kid's just like behind me. And I'm just like, hey, I was polite. I was like, hey, bud, like, keep it down back there. And then the next time I was like, hey, mother.
Lost your mind?
Yeah, it was
At
bad.
0 to 60.
Yeah.
So he was just chatting, he wasn't like yelling at the movie, like, don't go in there. Like,
No, he wasn't breaking the third wall with
Yeah.
the screen. He was,
What's your theater of choice? Like you're going to a movie theater, because I think it says a lot about a person.
I'm a
right?
megaplex guy locally. But
Yes.
if I'm out of state, I'm going to an Alamo. Have you guys been to an Alamo?
I've been to an
No.
Alamo.
That's
yeah.
that's where I
Those
would
are
go.
nice.
Oh, I've never been to one. What's good about them?
The food.
Oh, really?
They like bring the food to the seats, and you like there's a menu. You order, they bring it.
Yeah, it's
But it doesn't like interfere with the movie.
Huh.
They do a good job. I'm a big Alamo guy. I want to bring one to Utah.
Yeah.
Are they a sponsor?
of course they're a sponsor.
Yeah.
They are now.
Get
Alamo.
one to Utah.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
You're a big movie guy. Is there like a character that you just looked up to? You're like, I want to be. If I could
Absolutely.
be that guy.
Absolutely. George Bailey. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's my guy.
That's him.
Yeah, you are a big It's a Wonderful Life guy. I've seen it like once. It's not on my Christmas list
Yeah.
of movies I watch, but
That's my favorite movie of all time. Not just Christmas movie. All time.
why do you like him so much?
He's like the perfect balance of like, well, family business is all like,
Yeah.
mixed in there. So I'm a huge family business guy. It's been my life, and he's like got this desire to like get out of the town. Like he wants to leave Bedford Falls, but his dad gets in some issues. His dad has a stroke and dies. He's got to save the business. So he's got this like hometown, he cares about the people in the town, but he becomes like a legend because of his like heart and character.
Yeah.
Just a freaking guy.
Yeah.
Gives up everything he wants and desires, and he finds everything he really truly wants and desires right there where he's at.
Are you
I
choking up
totally
over
thought
there?
that- I
Are you
totally
choking
thought you
up?
were going to say Austin Powers.
Not mine, baby.
What about you, Alex?
God, that's hard. But yeah, it's gonna be one of the elves from Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure yet if it's Elrond or
Which ones are which ones are which?
no, for sure.
Because the elves live forever,
No,
right?
the guy that in that show is Aragorn, right? Like he's obviously
That's-
like an awesome fighter.
Who was the
But
actor in that,
most,
though?
This is Viggo Mortensen.
Oh,
But
yeah,
the most
yeah.
important
Yeah.
part of this, right? And this is where you get into like the whole allegory, and this is why Lord of the Rings is like banned as like an anti-government book, is because Viggo actually like Aragorn refuses to take the ring, right? Like he refuses that power, like that George Washington flex of like, yeah, I know I could take all this power, but it's not good. Like this is evil. Walks away from it.
You guys are really going for like people you look up to. I just want to be Indiana Jones. He's got the perfect mix of adventure, and he still pulls chicks.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah, and his life, doesn't that look awesome? He's a professor, so he's super smart. He's finding cool stuff. The only thing I don't agree with Indiana Jones is his emphasis on the museums. Like, if I find something awesome,
you're hanging that on your wall.
I'm not just giving it to a random museum.
No, you're the type of guy that carries that artifact to a party as like a conversation starter.
What's up?
He's got this big gold cross.
You get chicks with it. Hey, you want to see the Ark of the Covenant?
Spanish 14th century.
You
Yeah.
want to see Hitler's journal?
Oh, this whole thing.
I got it in my car.
That's a great choice though, because he is like the quintessential man. Like he is out just making it happen, adventurous, handsome.
Yeah.
He's amazing with a whip, which all ladies love.
Love that.
Whips are in.
Whips are in.
As the kids, junior highs,
For
kids
sure.
are bringing whips back.
He even has
yo-yos are out.
It's whips.
It's whips.
He even has like the homophobic vibe of being afraid of snakes, right? Like, but that's like setting a message
wow.
like, hey, there's no.
You're
there's
going
no
for the
gay
full
in
like,
this guy.
it's a phallic
Yeah,
symbol.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. You read the Indiana Jones book, so that's the vibe you're.
I don't need to read the books. They've made like 12 movies at this point.
Yeah, are they doing more?
I don't know. I didn't even see the last one.
No,
It was actually
Whereas-
pretty fun.
It was like the CGI'd Harrison
Yeah,
Ford.
it was pretty fun.
one.
I went in with pretty low expectations, and it was pretty good.
You guys all have, I mean, how many kids do you have now?
4.
I was asking like I don't know. I was just
four,
for the pod. That was
4 boys.
Yeah. Do
Hey,
you ever
4
come
boys.
across this? Actually, be good for Mason because you ever come across like the other day, like Rocky was asking me, he's like, "Dad, how much root beer is in the entire world?"
Which is like a
A
very
good question because
important
kids ask
question.
real questions, and I'm like, I need to know answers. So of course I was like, "Yeah, you see that mountain over there? If that was full of root beer." Like that's so I had an answer for him, but a lot of times they'll ask questions I don't have answers for. And I was thinking about this, like we should just know basic things. Like I had asked you a while ago about construction. I'm like, what are the like steps to build a house? I have no idea. Like what comes first, second, third, fourth. Like so if you're simplifying it to a kid, how would you explain how to build a house?
Well, I use construction analogies for everything with my kids because that's pretty much all I know. Like we're having this sex talk, and I'm like, okay, first you're gonna want to start with the foundation, okay?
So what would be the foundation in the sex talk?
Oh, the sex talk, that's just like getting to looking someone in the eye.
Yeah,
Like that's the
your foundation.
foundation. Seeing who's truly there.
Now
you know?
you see you're saying this with kids, but I'm actually learning something right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
hey,
go
I got
on.
a lot more
All
to
right.
teach you. Foundation, got to build that foundation. Because I got kids in junior high right now. I was freaking horny as hell.
Yeah.
in
Junior high, you're uncontrollable. You were controlled by your crotch
So
at that point.
the questions are not like, hey, how much root beer is a mountain? It's like, hey, how do I get rid of this hard on?
Yeah.
It's like, Dad, I can't. Like, I have to go from like I'm at 6 to midnight, like in the middle of class.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
It's a tricky time because
Yeah.
a lot of my analogies now are just like I'm having to get real creative. It's like talking about the strength of rebar as it compares to a boner. Cut that out.
No, it's called
good.
sprint that thing.
That's true.
That
Okay.
thing.
Okay. So you got your foundation. You're meeting the girl. You're like maybe your first little courting. Okay.
Yeah.
What's next for a house?
Oh, I mean, you know I don't build houses, right? Let's go with road construction.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Road construction. That's more up my alley.
Yeah. But I know you know how to build a house.
I do know how to build a house. But road construction, you build that foundation. That's the relationship. And then you can start to like get creative with what you're going to build after that. Like, hey, you
Yeah.
can start to test out what kind of relationships you're going to have. But my kids, like they're like, he's my younger one, Jones, he's got like 3 or 4 girls on deck at all times. So he's just like, hey,
Yeah.
which one today is
Yeah.
the one I'm going
Yeah.
for? My older one, Cash, he's a little more reserved. He's kind of waiting. He's more of an analytics guy.
Yeah.
So he's more like following the blueprint of the
Mm-hmm.
drawing. He's like, this is the rules. This is what I'm going to do. Jones is the kind of carpenter you show up in your house as like a circle when it was designed as a square. It's just going to get crazy.
Oh, dude, I love this. All right. So go on. What's next?
Oh, this is tough. You know, I just feel like,
So you got foundation.
and after that, it's just meeting the inspections. What's an inspection? It's like meeting someone's parents.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, I go to this girl's house in high school. I'm driving a big van, with no windows in it. And in the back, I have a mattress. Okay. And I'm like, this is like where I go to sleep during school. I ditch school. Like, that's my thing.
Yeah.
And not even thinking, I would go to pick up this girl for a date.
Yeah.
I knock on the door and he's like, "Hey, is that your van?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like,
You're all proud. Like,
I was
wanna
like,
check it
"Yeah,
out?"
yeah, it's freaking 40 miles to the gallon on this bad boy." And he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I take a look in the back?" And I'm like, I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
I froze solid on the porch. I'm just like,
Yeah.
sure. So we go back there and I slide the door. He's like, "No,
You're not
a
taking my
chance
daughter.
in hell. Are you taking her out on a date?" And I was like, "Yes, sir."
I respect that.
Yeah, date canceled. I freaking booked out of there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Hey,
I failed that exam.
But that's his loss, dude. Because
for sure.
For
look,
sure.
look how it's worked out.
'Cause
For
when
you,
you-
His-
That wasn't Cassie. That was a different
That was
girl.
not Cassie. When you were talking Lord of the Rings, I was like, when I went and saw that movie, I spent the last half of that movie in the back of that van. I
Yeah.
left that movie to go out to the van with the
Oh,
girl I was
good
on a
for
date.
you.
oh, we had way different experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was staying in the theater to rewatch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I can tell by the way you talk about Lord of the Rings. It's a real important part of your life.
Yeah.
Still, like if you had like, I mean, $20 in your pocket, you were rich back then. And Alex, one time he saves up all this money. It was like, maybe like, how much does that sword cost?
So it was like $150.
$150. He buys a sword. It was the Lord of the Rings. Tell him the sword part.
Yeah. So this is so you have the broken sword, right, that cuts the ring from the hand, and then the elves like remake it, right?
Yep.
And so this is like the remade sword, but it was a knockoff. So it just kind of looks
Either
a
way,
little-
his older brother thought it was legit, right? And so he would just sit there, and I'd sit there for hours just watching. He's like showing me different sword maneuvers and things, and I'd be, hyping him up. He was awesome.
Which is a good big brother because most big brothers would have
No,
been
that's
like,
actually
"Dude,
that's not 100%
no way
true.
that would
But
ever
I definitely did
happen.
show. I was semi proud of this sword. Just the fact that he got the money to buy it. But one day he was just practicing moves in his room as you do, and his finishing move, he just freaking stabs his mattress. Like he just finishing move, boom,
Right
and like
through it.
crowd went crazy. All
Yeah.
our friends were just jacked. Later on, my mom is changing his sheets.
she's rummaging around.
Yeah, my mom, I don't know what she was doing, but she sees this hole in the mattress. And of course, it's like any other teenager would be using this hole or whatever.
So
She confronts Alex, like, "Hey, I found a hole in your mattress. What are you doing with that hole?" And he couldn't even explain that. He's like, "Mom, I was doing this dope sword move and I
Both-
stabbed it."
Both explanations, right? Whether
not-
her
yeah.
imaginary explanation or the real explanation were bad, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no,
But did she think it was a sexual innuendo?
Oh,
And you're like,
100%.
"I'm
That's why
sticking
she
my
was-
She
sword
thought
in
she thought he was boning his
And then
mattress.
I actually was so
That's
blown
actually
away
true.
when she brought it up that I was like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Mom," I'm like, "No, this is like
I did a sweet move.
I'm like,
in front of
trust
my
me.
friends.
I mean, I've looked into this. It's you got like an inch, and then you're hitting metal spring. I mean, just it wasn't
Yeah.
practical, Mom.
So
I
it's
I
still-
fed Mom. I was like, "Mom, he is."
To this day, does she still think?
Yes,
that
for sure. She still does.
No, for
my
sure not.
parents, my parents were not ones that were like, I don't know how your parents were. We didn't like openly talk about sex and all that stuff. So like, it was a lot more passive aggressive. Like, "Hey, Alex, what are you doing with that hole in your mattress?"
Oh, my parents never talked about it, but I had 4 older brothers. That was like,
Yeah,
dude, I learned about this. Well, that and combined with I was working on a concrete crew when I was like 12.
Yeah,
Like
you got
I remember this.
it's either
Seriously,
nom stories.
it's either nom or okay. I'm sitting there at lunch. I'm like eating a tuna fish sandwich, and the dudes are talking about the strip club the night before, and I'm like 11, and they're like, "That was insane," and I was just like nodding my head, like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?" But I learned everything from those guys, like everything you could possibly learn about from like 11 to 15. Like it was insane. Like they bring Playboys to lunch and like flip through magazines, and I was like, "What is
I'm
happening?"
putting my boys
Answer-
to work on a concrete.
Yeah,
tee,
answer
dude.
me this though,
Get the
because I've
barn
been on
boys back together.
Barn boys.
answer me this though. I've been on a lot of construction sites. My dad also grew up in construction, so we go and every time you use the bathroom, you're in those stalls.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some sick art. Like, who are these people that are going in after hours and drawing like just nasty stuff and
Well,
putting? Who are these people?
The really
Is that
good,
the workers?
That's the workers, and they're the most of that art. They've like gathered their skills in prison cells, like doing
Yeah.
doing like tats. It was either really like sexual art or
Yeah.
it was like that standard S that everyone used to do back in the day, where you like.
Yep, I remember the S.
The S.
Yeah, the
Oh,
three.
three
you do the 3
lines.
lines and you connect them. Oh my god.
And then there was always ones that would like just talk crap on the boss, like the boss on this job is a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
And I got in a porta potty one time and it said Morgan Green is a faggot on it. That was my brother.
So Micah, one of your older brothers
Someone, yeah.
wrote that. Do you think like all the like hieroglyphs you're seeing on walls and stuff, is that just the same type of people that are writing on bathroom stalls
Oh,
now?
absolutely. Some freaking caveman. who's
Yeah, everyone's
pissed.
like, oh, these are like the smartest. Like this could be like actually the lowest of the people
That could,
at that
it could-
time.
that's very. I mean,
and that's who we're like basing their entire
like,
history
we're trying
on.
to study it
Oh,
also.
they were
Well,
hunter gatherers. It's like, no, this guy was kicked out, and so he's freaking killing whatever he can to
Yeah.
survive because he's so weird. You know.
Would you be a hunter or a gatherer?
I
Or,
mean,
or the third option, maybe just a lover.
yeah. No, I don't know how I would have survived back then. I just don't think genetically, I was created for this type of load. You know?
Yeah.
well, let me ask you that because, like, if you're talking about being genetically like designed the way you are, is that because of because Zach's a very athletic guy?
Yeah.
Are you athletic like Zach? I don't know. I don't know
He's
you.
decently athletic. He's surprising athletic.
I do get sneaky athletic, but the only reason it was
guy-
because like it's like a waterfall effect of like this is like he forced me.
Like I left him that waterfall. He left me the hole in the mattress.
Yeah.
Like,
We
everyone
each gave each
benefits from
other.
the others.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like my older brothers and I it was like competitive sports all the
Yeah.
time, and I was the youngest, so I was like had
Yeah.
to be scrappy.
Yeah.
You feel like Zach he put you in a place where you had to compete extra hard to
For sure, he had
Yeah.
to. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
had when we played basketball and stuff. Dude, he's a sneaky rebounder. I'm telling you.
That's what
If you play- like,
anybody
it's
anybody who
insane.
compliments someone on their rebounding is just like the most passive aggressive diss.
No, it's just that's just the truth though.
It is. He's it definitely could be both, but
I would compliment his shot. But the problem with Alex, if Alex shoots a 3-pointer, he's already to the rim to rebound it before it hits there. 'cause
So
he's
he shoots with no confidence.
He's
No
planning on it
confidence.
missing, and it usually banks off the backboard, and he'll get his own rebound.
Well, think of the best 3-point shooters in the world are still under 50%, right? So they still have a better chance of missing than making. So it's like, why aren't they doing that too, right? Like, hey, the odds are
No,
you're gonna flip that coin and it's gonna
Yeah.
be tails.
well, now they shoot. They do the turnaround runaway before it even gets like halfway.
yeah,
down,
it's
too.
a different.
why
Are you
the-
watching the playoffs right now?
Surprisingly, I am because I've kind of banned the NBA in my life for a few years because
Yeah.
it's just not good. But I kind of like watching a couple of these players right
The
now.
playoffs are fun right now.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like that Mavs Wolves series
Yeah.
is way fun to watch. A lot of good
Yeah.
players. Kyrie is amazing.
He's insane.
He's so good.
and Anthony Edwards is really fun to watch.
He's fun to watch. But man, I watched that first game at least, and Kyrie and Luca. I mean, they look like superstars, and Ant kind of just disappeared. I think he's
Yeah.
a little younger, but
He's had like a couple massive games, and all of a sudden it's been like really struggling. Like the first half, he didn't do a single thing last
yeah,
night.
I think
Yeah.
he's guarding Kyrie, and so I think he's probably just exhausted. But
Yeah, it's fun to watch though. Like I've like hated on the NBA for a bit.
you were such a 90s.
Not
When I think of
90s
90s basketball, I think of you.
which is funny because I'm not a basketball guy.
Yeah, but
but
you were into the Jazz.
Oh,
Like you had
dude.
season tickets, right? Your parents did.
Jazz was like my thing. Any '90s, any team in the '90s, like dude, I was obsessed. Like I would be like type of guy that's like NBA Jam,
Mhm.
making. You know, you can switch the players. And
Yeah,
I was always
who's your team in NBA Jam?
do you know what's crazy? It was a Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. Like,
Oh, solid duo.
dude,
That's
it
a
was-
solid
Yeah.
duo.
That is good.
Because it really didn't matter if they on the NBA Jam, if they were a good 3-point shooter, it really didn't matter. Everyone was making threes on
Oh, yeah.
NBA Jam.
Yeah, that's a fun game. We have it on an arcade at our house, and like I always want to play that with my kids, and they're
Do
like,
kids like it?
no,
No.
It doesn't
no,
translate
no.
to nowadays.
Yeah, I struggle getting my kids to play some old games, right? Like some of the games that really they should have fun compared with what they're playing now. And yeah, they don't. I'm always way better. Like it comes back like that, you know.
So you're just
I'm
doing
way
it to, like, beat 'em.
better. Yeah, exactly. And so then they're getting smoked. And they're like, this is stupid. They move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like last night, Rocky had a sleepover with his buddy, and they have Ninja Turtles on our Xbox, and they're just going crazy with Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
Like,
is it
I
a
love
new
this.
Ninja Turtles game?
It's
Yeah,
like a
they
remastered
redid it.
version, but it's the same how we played, like the arcade where you're
that's
running
sweet.
left to right.
Hey, okay, I was actually thinking about this earlier because like I was doing like a color personality test at work,
Uh-huh.
and you like get identified by
Classic
color.
structure.
And I was like, this is lame. They're missing the mark. They should easily do your personality based off of the color of the Ninja Turtle mask.
Mm-hmm.
Simple
So
enough.
it's simple. There's 4
Yeah.
quadrants there. You have Leo, you have Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo.
Mhm.
Who do you guys identify with? And the question is like, who's the most interesting of the 4?
For sure. I think I mean, they're all interesting in their own ways. I would definitely mostly relate to like Michelangelo and Donatello because they were like funner and like, but I have a little bit of, I think everyone has a little bit of all of them in them. I had some Raphael in me. I had some Donatello too.
I identify with Raph personally, because I can be a little bit more like isolated from the group. Like I'm the guy in a group message with all of our friends that I don't participate in the group text. I'm just like off doing my own
It's
thing.
not on your list.
It's not on my
It's the
to-do
best.
list.
Yeah, you hate group text.
And then as soon as it gets down to the wire where we need to make a commitment,
He'll write
like,
one word.
I'll be
in.
like in or understood or whatever. Like
You're a pretty good texter by yourself, but on the group text, yeah, you disappear.
I struggle in group text. So like Raph's my guy, but I also feel like he's pretty interesting. I think everyone kind of wants to be Michelangelo.
For sure.
Yeah, because he's just funny.
He's fun. He's kind of one-dimensional. He's just out for the party. He's just like wants to do his thing. Leonardo, kiss ass. Like he's just.
I had nothing. Leonardo's the one I'd least associate with, I think.
I for sure associate most with Leonardo because you're like you said, he has to deal with all the shit, right? Like hey, I've got to go suck up to Splinter, and then I got to come over here and explain, like, hey, Splinter's not picking up Doritos this week because we didn't do
He's
this,
always
right?
getting
Domino's?
mad. He's getting so mad at the other.
Well,
yeah, he's too serious.
But here's the thing: is they put all this responsibility on him, right? I mean, he's got all this responsibility.
No,
he's got to take.
I don't know.
Do you remember the Turtles in Time movie?
Oh yeah,
That's a tough movie.
yeah.
The
at the
third
time-
Turtles was bad.
At the time, we loved it, but you go back
I didn't
and
love
watch
the
anyway.
third. I think the
first one's-
second, I was like,
First and second were second and first were good. Third,
Yes.
I kind of feel like almost all movies that go for a third.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
It's a strikeout.
did you see the most recent one? The one that Seth Rogen did?
Oh, the animated one.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see
It's
it.
so good.
Is it good?
It's freaking amazing.
I
yeah.
think lately some of these animated movies, like the new Spider-Man.
Yeah,
The Spider-Man
it's
was
got
great.
that vibe to it. It's really freaking good, really well written.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I bet my kids would love it.
And they aren't like the steroidy turtles. I couldn't like relate, even though our turtles were definitely ripped,
Those turtles were ripped.
but like they still had some teenage vibes to them. The newer ones, I'm like, you can't pass these turtles off as like teenagers anymore.
The
right?
first one that came out, it was kind of dark.
It was a great
Yeah.
movie. It was just
It's really
good.
Like
good.
I was impressed that back then they kind of took a dark. You remember when like that? What's that one kid, Danny? He's like
Danny, yeah.
they go to that hangout where all like the up and coming the Foot Clan are hanging out. They're like, I was like, I want to hang out at this place.
Yeah, dude. Let's get to today's day in history. We like to do that in this pod.
Oh, okay, it's interesting.
So back in 1934,
Well, I just want to preface something real quick. You guys I've been very impressed with your guys' understanding of history.
Alex is a smart guy.
Well,
And
Stop.
I have some facts.
And I'm a good rebounder.
Okay, so sweet. This day in history, what is it?
So me and Alex were kids. We went to Vegas, and there was this car that was completely shot up. Remember this?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde died in 1934. What do you know about Bonnie and Clyde?
It's an amazing song by Jay-Z.
Oh, great song by Jay-Z. You're right.
Yeah, that's kind of the extent. I know.
And-
They're bank robbers, right? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like in a time when like being a villain was kind of popular, right? Like these guys love to build their persona. I mean, they're coming off of like Billy the Kid and Sundance
Yeah.
Kid and like real, so they're kind of biting off of that. But they like loved they were like infamous, right, in every sense of the term.
Yeah.
like how are they getting so famous? Because it's really just like word
So,
of mouth at that point.
it's
in
word of
time.
mouth,
and
and
like
so-
wanted posters all over.
Yeah,
the place.
and so Bonnie, the girlfriend in this, like she came off as like a really strong woman at that time. Like so she's like taking the reins and running with it. So I think people looked up to that part of it. But they were like not good people at this point. So like Clyde was in and out of jail like essentially his whole early life, and he hated prison. So he's on this chain gang. And so he eventually Bonnie helps him escape a few times. And
where is this at in the U.S.?
they're like in Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, it's during like the Dust Bowl and stuff. They're from these poor families, and they're just like rednecks, and they're crazy. So I think they end up killing like 10 like police officers through their like year and a half, on the run. So this is during like Prohibition. So like they were partying, all these different things. But yeah, I think eventually they broke out of prison, and Clyde did, and they were like partying. So the cops got called on. Everyone wanted them dead. Like people were after them. And so when they heard where they were, it wasn't like we're gonna arrest these people. They're like, we're gonna set it up where we make sure that these people are dead. They were like a gang. There was like 5 of them.
So what was their main crime? They're bank robbers.
They were robbing banks, not a ton of banks, but like grocery stores, gas stations, civilians. Like they killed civilians. They were not great people. But like in Vegas, when we saw this car, I mean, telling you, it is shot up. So they I think they said 50 bullets each like got killed by 50 different bullets.
Oh man, they just went all in on this.
And the car is just completely shot up. But yeah, they had a nice, fast, good run.
Yeah, we don't have that nowadays with like, this is like the bad guy that we got to track down ever since we got Osama, right? Maybe like the cartel in Mexico, they do. So I'm jealous, right? So like, hey, this guy runs this cartel. This guy runs this cartel.
Yeah, but like they're not memorialized as like a hero or like a anti-government like kind of like back then it was like, oh, these guys are
the less you know about. I think they're enigmatic. So the less you know about people, you kind of can like people. But
was
more.
Bonnie and Clyde kind of like a Robin Hood scenario? Like they were
100%.
giving things back to their community.
No, I don't think
they weren't giving it back. But no, I'm saying they weren't giving it back, but they did have that like, hey, we're stealing from like banks and things like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
But also I don't think that was their strategy. I don't think they had any moral compass. I think they were just wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that there's that going on, but I kind of feel like there's that in like a junior high level. Like my kids are like, there's a bad kid who's kind of like rebellion. They're like, oh, he's a legend.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, when you show any bit of like confidence in like who you are in junior high, you're like looked up to because you're like, hey, I kind of know who I am.
Yeah, my oldest kid right now, he's got all of a sudden he's like hit a growth spurt and he's like kind of like he's starting to work out. He's getting a little tough, and I'm like, I was getting after him the other day, and he kind of like chested up to me, like. I was like, oh, wow.
We doing?
Like this is it. All of a sudden you think you're a man.
Was it intent, like a tense? Was he joking or was it like?
No. It was like,
he was mad.
But it was like a natural, it didn't think like this is my thing. He just kind of like stood up and I was like, but he quickly like retracted it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh no, bad idea. And
yeah.
He, like, headed out.
That'll always be a bad idea. I don't know if your kids will ever be able to beat you up.
I hope not.
Did you get up at 4:30 and you do the half hour?
Is that why? Is this like psychologically why you started right down to work out this early?
Preparation.
It's like you're like, hey, I gotta stay alpha. I gotta stay alpha in this herd.
Absolutely, dude. Do you like? There's some people that are competitive with their kids that like they don't want their kids to beat them at a sport or a game. Yeah. Are you guys like that, or are you guys like? Do you guys take it easy on your kids?
No, for sure. So in video games, when like my older boys. Like I don't take it easy on them at all, right? I will beat them 100 times in a row on certain games just so they know. We played a lot of board games with my buddies and we would bet, right? But it was like I had pissed so many people off that it was like there was always an alliance starting against me in some of these games.
Before the game even started, they're already like trying to get you out.
Yeah, but it made me so much better. Like we went on a cruise with a couple years ago, and they started off. All three of them against me from the get-go. They're trading.
You know who you sound a lot like right now? It's Hitler.
Yeah, for sure.
Like before the war, everyone's
against us, right?
Everyone's against you.
But dude, I ended up smoking all three of them. Just all three gets me so.
You guys.
Hey, real quick, you guys are history, but I want to know how familiar you are with the Vietnam War because I learned a ton.
Yeah.
While I was in Vietnam,
I think we're pretty versed, not like extreme, but decently.
Okay, so when I was there, like the only thing I knew about the Vietnam War at this point was like what I saw in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's like, accurate because
like, and I was expecting like, okay, this is kind of what it's gonna look like. And what
did you go to Bubba's like the whole statue? They have Bubba over there.
Oh, of course, dude. I ate at the Bubba Gump Shrimp House.
They got it right there on Ho Chi Minh
in Saigon.
So I didn't know anything about like the real history of like how it started, and we got a little tour while we were there and I was soaking it up because I was like there and learning stuff that I haven't really learned. I didn't pay attention to anything in school about it.
Yeah.
So tell me this. What's your understanding of how that war started?
So Vietnam, post World War II, they'd just been taken over by the Japanese, and they had these freedom fighters that were fighting against the Japanese. Right.
Let's go back just a little bit though, because like most people don't know about like France takes over Vietnam in the late 1800s.
Yeah, they're like on a rampage to colonize.
And so essentially, to give that some backstory, France essentially is running that. But then when Germany, because France is taking tons of money from Germany from World War I, when Germany eventually invades and takes over France during World War II, and the Japanese are obviously allies with the Germans, they come in and they take over French occupied Vietnam at this point. So either way, the Vietnamese at this point have been dealing with the French and now the Japanese. So
and then the World War II ends. The Japanese are expelled, right? And you have this Ho Chi Minh and this group wanting independence, right? So they're now the French come back and they're ruling, and Ho Chi Minh wants independence. They want more say, and they look to America as like, hey, you guys did this. Like you had a colonial power that was trying to govern you from afar. There was a lot of corruption. There was a lot of like bad stuff, and you wanted to expunge that. And so they like came to the U.S. and the U.S. was like,
Well, the U.S. was backing the French for so long at that point, so like
This
they
is
didn't
the
really
part-
want to support like any revolution there because they're like, hey, we're allies with the French, we're
Yeah.
in bed with the French.
That was the part that was shocking to me because we're on the tour and we come across like the French quarters. And I'm like, well, what the heck is the French quarters doing? I didn't know like French had occupied over there. So I go over there, we're checking that out. And he's like, yeah, like the Vietnamese had reached out to the US prior to try to form an alliance to like help with them becoming unified national. And the US kind of backed off. Why did they back off?
I think because after this is like kind of during like World War I time, like they had helped eventually allied with the French and the English, and the French were their friends, and so the French have this territory, and so they're kind of like, hey, I'm sure they kind of liked the idea. Like I think it was Wilson at the time, President Wilson, that like Ho Chi Minh was writing him letters, and he wasn't even responding. Like, hey, we should like be independent of France, but the Americans were with the French at that point, so they just ignored him.
yeah, and even post World War II, you have like a super complex political system. You need the French to stay anti-Russian. You need them on your side, but obviously it was the wrong call. But
so then when does communism come into play? Because at that point with the
Ho Chi Minh, the leader of this like wanting this revolution, is like a communist. So he had been living. I mean, he is kind of like a guy that was abroad everywhere. He had lived over like in France for a long time, and then he lived in Russia and in China, and so he had those ideals of like.
So once the U.S. kind of said, "Hey, we're not going to help," is that when he turns to?
It might have maybe it made him gone extra, but he was definitely like at that point like figuring out like which political side he wanted.
Because this was an interesting
Vietnam.
answer when I was over there. You know, Vietnam is a communist
Uh-huh.
country, but they're like we're not communist by the way we act, only by title.
yeah,
And I'm like, so what does that mean? They're like, well, it's like all about free enterprise over here. Like we don't have a centralized health care, like all this stuff that doesn't make us communists and it's like or socialists or by any means. Like we're capitalists.
Yeah. Doesn't that suck though that so many like it was
such a waste.
a waste of time for like so many people from the United States lost their lives and Vietnamese over what they were going to get already. Like,
Well, what's interesting too is like they said that the U.S. easily could have won the war if they would have just put all of their eggs and attacked North Vietnam, but they were just trying to like support from the South and just like kind of like push it along. But the reason why they didn't want to just go all in on an attack on North Vietnam was because they didn't want to start World War III.
Yeah. They had just seen this in Korea, right? You had a map in Korea of like what they had done, and in Korea, you know, the North Koreans had won that war, and then the U.S. basically lands a huge force, pushes them all the way back to where the U.S. basically wins that war, and then the Chinese flood across the border, and you have like a battle back and forth, and now you have like, you know, the line clearly drawn between North and South Korea. So they saw that, I think, in a lot of ways, and were like, hey, if we go to get too aggressive, then we could, you know, get the Chinese back into this war, or get, you know, like a lot. It was complex that way, but on the flip side too, and this is what I like always like try and stress to my kids, it's like you get Hitler obviously has a well-deserved bad rap for killing innocent people, but it's like the US by making this decision, which was like, you know, obviously complex and difficult decision, but like I think over 5 million innocent Vietnamese people, right? Not soldiers or anything like that, are killed in this war, right? From US bombing campaigns. So it's like these like people, and again, it's for nothing. So you think of the U.S. casualties, which is awful. I think it was like 50,000 U.S. Marines or soldiers dead, but it's like 5 million that's a like holocaustic like numbers. But
well, okay, so this is an interesting thing. We're on this tour and we're cruising around, and we're seeing all these cool like
on motorcycles.
This part we're doing like a Jeep tour.
Okay,
like we have a half day before we get on the motorcycle piece. So we're like have a guide and he's like talking us through the different sites and everything. And we're seeing like old planes that have been blown up that are still like in the city. Like they have them fenced off and there's like a B-52 bomber just sitting right there. It's pretty cool.
Crazy.
Anyway, then all of a sudden we take a stop at this art studio. And I want to see how you guys feel about this. We go into the art studio and it's like mediocre art. It's like hand stitched kind of paintings. We turn the corner and there's all these handicap people making this art with all sorts of deformities. And he says, hey, all of these artists have been affected by Agent Orange.
crazy.
So there's like maybe 20 of them in there doing this art, and there's like almost like a guilty, hey, you need to buy this
Yeah.
art kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, this all happened, and these are like third or second generation people that were affected.
Agent Orange was a deforestation chemical, right? That they would use to try and take down some of the deep brush so that they could see the enemy.
But yeah, and it's affected like third generation, still more to come. Like, and they're like fully deformed doing this art, but our guide is like, see
we did.
buy
Yeah.
you need to buy
Did
it.
you buy art?
Of course I bought some art, dude.
Well, what was the deformity of the person you bought the art off? You try to go for the most limbs. Like, hey, this
I was
kid's
like, which
most-
one's the most shocking?
No, he wants the story, right? Because he's like, it's already going to be like a kind of a shitty art piece, right? So I got to get a good story.
No,
so which one did you do?
Yeah.
I want that, guys. No, I bought the cheapest thing I could find in there because the art's not something I want to hang in my house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So where is it now?
I think I left it in
You
Vietnam.
should gift it to the pod.
I was kind of like, everyone in the group, it was like us 5, and we're just like, it was kind of awkward. Because it was like, hey, look what you guys have done. I was like, oh, man.
No.
So it would be the equivalent for that in the US. Like if you have Japanese people coming over and you're like, you take them to like Pearl Harbor and you have,
Like Topaz, like, hey, we had to set up this
Topaz,
internment camp for Japanese
So they
Americans.
just- anyways, buy this art.
Buy this or what?
Cost us like $100,000 to build this tent city out here in
it
the
was-
middle
it
of
was-
nowhere.
It was kind of an awkward moment, but at the same time, it was like, it kind of brought the reality of like what went down.
There's like consequences and stuff. But there's still active landmines over there that like there's areas you're not supposed to go into because there's still mines over there.
I think it's a cool example though, of time like healing wounds, because if your grandparents had been invaded by this country that supposedly was bringing freedom in the form of Agent Orange and big bombs, right? And you had because everybody lost everybody in that war, right? That lived there. Like, you think within a generation, it's gone from to completely, almost completely forgiven in a lot of ways, right? Like, obviously they haven't forgotten, and I'm sure they have memorials, and there's probably people that harbor resentful feelings, but it's cool to see like the age kind of like, hey, let's move on, right? Like, this wasn't like this generation's choice.
That was the main conversation of our tour guide. He was like, we love Americans.
Yeah,
and like,
that's freaking amazing.
He's like, he actually said, he's like, one of the things about Vietnamese people, he's like, we've been attacked by the French, by the Chinese, by the Americans. Like, he just kept going on and on. He's like, we're resilient people and we don't hold grudges. And then he like whispered under his breath, except for Chinese. He's like,
I think the Chinese.
the Japanese, it feels like that area, like, because the Japanese were like the major colonizers throughout history.
During
like,
that
if you look
time,
in that area, like they would come over like a 600-year period. They were constantly coming back and forth colonizing.
well, there's a huge memorial. There's like a big kind of like lake right in the middle of
Hanoi?
Hanoi. Yeah, right in the middle of Hanoi. And there's like a big monument for John McCain where he got shot down.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like
That's
it's
so cool.
right in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
It's like, it says all the stuff, and then right around the corner from there is where they had all the prisoner of war camps, and they were actually like like prisons built by the French, but they used them in in the Vietnam War for American prisoners of war. And so we go there and we take a tour of this place, and we're like walking through. We have like headsets on, and we're listening to like the tour guide, and you see where there's like solitary confinement where they're like locked up, and they feed them through these little holes and everything. And then that night, we get on a bus, like a night bus, and we have the craziest experience. So we're waiting outside, and this it's supposed to be like it's called a luxury night bus, so we can sleep on the way there. This teeny little bus shows up, and I'm like, oh crap, like this is gonna suck. It's a 12-hour or 10-hour bus ride. I'm gonna be in this freaking piece of crap.
Just
letting it rip.
Just extreme snoring.
Did you bring the apnea machine?
No, I don't have it yet. I don't have it yet. So now I wear one of those goofy mouthpieces. It's like you put it in like right when you're falling asleep, and then someone wants to like talk, and you're like, what? You know, you have to pull it out.
Anyways.
Okay, so this bus pulls up, and this Vietnamese guy gets out, doesn't speak any English, and he starts yelling, bus, like, get on. And I'm like, okay. For some reason, I always like gravitate to using Spanish no matter where I'm at. So I'm just like, está bien. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's not going to work. So we get on the little bus, and it's like, for some reason, it's like panic mode. Like, first, all of us are like getting our bags, we're like throwing it on, and we're like, hey, this is not our bus. We're trying to explain to the guy, this is not our bus. And he's saying like, there's 5 of us, bus. So we get on, and we're like, okay. So we start going. We go around the corner, and then he's like, off, kicking us off. And I'm like, we haven't slept in like 3 days basically because it was so hot in the Philippines. We didn't sleep at all. So then we moved to another bus. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is straight up like how they treated the prisoners of war. Okay. So then we get on the sleeper bus and he's like, he literally grabs the back of my neck. This driver's like, just like he's on a time crunch.
Yeah.
He gets the back of my neck and he pushes me down into this little sleeper hold on the side of the bus. Like I go in and there's like a curtain. He slides it back and he pushes me down in this hole. And he like closes it. And I'm like, I'm freaking in solitary confinement right now. I'm like, this is weird. Then we drive. So I'm in the hole and he's like, then he opens, he's like, shoes. He like wants me to take my shoes off. So I'm like, he gives me a bag. I take my shoes off. I put them in the bag, closes the curtain. And like, it's a crazy bus ride. Like we're flopping around. There's like no rules on the traffic. And so finally I fall asleep. And I'm like thinking of like John McCain the whole time. I'm like, oh frig, dude, I'm in for it here. I'm gonna get freaking fed through this little hole. And all of a sudden I'm dozing off, and then he slides, but the curtain flies open, and like all this bright light. I'm like, he's like, toilet, and he's like, no. So I get up and like all of us white Americans and like some of the European dudes that are on this bus with no shoes on, we're freaking bare feet walking through like a gravel parking lot to this bathroom.
You're a freaking POW.
He's all toilet, 5 minutes. And so then like we're all in the bathroom, like kind of like, hey, are you guys okay? Yeah, we're gonna make it, right? We're like, okay, I'm good. We get back in, freaking slams us back in the hole, and we're like,
How long was that drive?
I think it was like 8 to 9 hours.
Wow.
Were you like patting against, like doing Morse code pats against like the side of it?
To the other guy above me in the bunk. I legitimately, like, because I was delirious too.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, I'm like, this is like payback from freaking Vietnam.
Well, you've seen those old POW video when they would show POWs and they would be like, everything's great, but they're blinking like the Morse code.
Yeah.
Like, help me. Things are bad.
It was sketchy, but it was a serious adventure.
But you loved it.
Oh, I loved Vietnam, dude.
Yeah.
The food was cool, and the places we went were like pictures. It's like one of those trips you go and like pictures just don't do it
Most
justice.
places
Like
like
I'll
that.
show someone. I'm like, look at this cool
place,
and they're like, huh, nice.
A place where the only way to describe it is the word indescribable.
Exactly.
One of those.
And the like when we were just talking about being emotional in our 40s, I got emotional a couple of times just from like the view.
Yeah, when you're driving your motorcycle.
Yeah, I was like alone in my own head thinking about my life.
Do you have
my
music?
family. I didn't. I'm not a music guy.
Because I'm a lot of times when I'm listening to music and driving, I do get emotional.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like in my own thoughts, just like cruising. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'm on the emotional like spectrum as you guys are yet. So I'm like, man, next year's gonna hit hard.
Oh, dude,
Because I'm just a year away from
just
it.
you
Things
wait,
change.
dude.
Yeah.
How old are you?
38. I'm a year and a
A
couple
year
months
younger.
behind him.
Listening to this podcast specifically, I was able to like see more of your guys' relationship. Like what tied you guys so close together growing up? Like how do you guys stay?
I would think like growing up, I was more like, I'm going to do my own thing. Alex is cool, but like I treated him like a little brother then. I think when I went on my mission, like not even I think like right when I graduated high school, I was like, hey, we actually have a really good thing here. And it was cool then, but like when you're a kid, you're kind of too cool for things. You're like, it's like your kid brother. And so at that point, I definitely think it was like, no, Alex is great. Like we get along really, like we're pretty much the same person in a lot of ways. So then it kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, Zach always had and you've probably seen this, he has a natural swag. So as a little brother, it's like he was an easy example, but you couldn't get too close. Otherwise, that swag would turn on you, right? So it was like, I would watch him from afar. You remember going back to Ninja Turtles, but you remember in the first one when Splinter's training by watching his master. He's the little rat. Yeah. He's training. That's what I was doing with Zach, right? He didn't see me, but I'm sitting there like trading. Like I'd hear him say something funny, and I just keep practicing.
But you did have a sense of independence because Zach wasn't a sword wielding.
No, he wasn't.
Mattress
for
humper.
sure. He is his own thing.
No, I go by the beat of my own drum, and yeah, that's like, you know.
Because it reminds me, your relationship reminds me a lot of mine and Morgan's. Morgan's my older brother, a couple years older than me. And like ever since we were kids, our groups of friends were always together.
Yeah, and that helps too, right? Because it's like our friends were all
together,
just linked in, right?
And me and Morgan worked together for 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's probably similar.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember like a pivotal moment where when I was like, hey, Morgan's my guy. So we're at recess at Jenny P. Stewart Elementary, and I get in a little scuffle during a soccer match
With who?
Jordan Bastian, which is a great friend of mine, but it just competitive
You
nature
would
got
pick
the
on the
best of
smaller
us.
guy.
And Jordan
Of
doesn't.
course.
Hey, Jordan doesn't listen to the podcast. We could talk shit.
Oh, of course, dude. And me and Jordan are like wrestling, going to town, and all of a sudden I get a grab from the back of my neck from the ground duty. She like pulls me off like, aggressively.
Yeah.
And then out of the corner of my eye, Morgan, who's a 6th grader, tackles the ground duty. And she falls into the mud puddle face first. She goes straight down into the mud.
Oh my gosh.
The Green brothers get hauled to the principal's office. And like she's like, it's the type of mud where you're like peeling it back from your eyes so you can see, you know? And then we're sitting there waiting for the principal, and Morgan's like next to me, and Morgan like looks at me, he like gives me the knuckles. He's like, dude, I always have your back. I was like, oh, this guy's a legend, dude.
Yeah, that's dope.
That is like, see, us Helms, we're not like fighters. We never got any.
We're
fights.
squirmy, you know. We kind of squirm our way. We would have been that kid just kind of
Squirmy.
squirming out of there.
Yeah.
Jordan Bastian squirming out.
If you know Morgan, that story makes sense.
Yeah, he's like, because he
That's
flies
cool.
off the handle like that with no thinking.
And then he's back in a second, like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that.
But like even since that day, like throughout like our business and working together, even like now in our 40s, like I like that guy's like he'll always be like almost like a big brother protection thing. Like, hey, I got this freaking handled.
Yeah, that's cool.
I want to get to some headlines right now. Do you know who's going through the headlines is freaking the Kansas City kicker Butker.
Yep.
You heard about him?
No.
He gives it was like a commencement speech at his
For pretext, he's a Catholic. He's a very staunch Catholic.
staunch Catholic guy.
At a Catholic university who is invited to give a commencement speech.
Yeah, and he kind of just references that women. He doesn't say it as bad as you can read it, but it says like women should stay in the kitchen essentially.
Okay.
But people are so upset about it, and I feel kind of bad. I don't like when the mob attacks too much, but when it's a Kansas City kicker,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I hate
hard.
the
You're
Chiefs.
torn because
Anytime a Chief can go down,
You're down for that?
yeah, as a Niners fan,
Okay, take that out of the equation. Do you agree with his statement?
not the way I would.
No, I
in
think
his.
if you read what he says, it's like it's very much like my wife has done this and this and this, and it's like people should want to emulate her, and because she's been the quintessential like stay at home, staying like make a dinner like a traditional wife, and so he's like honoring that and kind of taking digs at like society, but it's not like it's not as dark as I think.
No.
Like they will take like mainstream media will take like lots of quotes out of reference, right? And like he's built up like a certain thing, and then they'll take just the quote of like she's been in the kitchen and that's where she should have been or something like that, right? Where it's like,
and then he started quoting Hitler.
yeah, the Hitler part.
No, he
hard.
did not.
No.
I was like, what?
No.
That sounds like something Alex would do.
That sounds like Mahomes would do for sure.
Well, look, my dad is like a very traditional guy.
Yeah.
Like he would always like we had a secretary that worked at our office, and he's like, we gotta just get you home with the kids. Like you need to stop working here. You need to be home. And she was like, no, this is like what I want to do. And he's like, nonsense.
I don't think so.
Yeah, like he was like he's a very and I'm like I'm a little bit that way because
Yeah.
that's how I was raised, and I'm like I'm out. I want to be the provider, and I want Cassie to be able to be home. But I am also like supportive of like women who want to work, whatever. But like I can see how making a statement like that can make you and like it can just get spun up. But I didn't hear it.
No, you get boxed in big time if you say stuff like that with like some of these. I think people just spread like they can like repost stuff so much you make you like they can just make you look bad so
Well,
fast.
But like Andy Reid and Mahomes like kind of came to his defense a lot with it, right? Like with kind of where they had talked about like his character, right? As a
Yeah, they say his character, but they don't agree with what he said. They like separate themselves from like.
sort of the NFL was like, hey, it was his opinion, but
Yeah.
like,
But why does the NFL have to comment
Exactly.
on freaking everything? They
I
can't
know.
it's so weird that like because they're a public figure or an athlete, all of a sudden everybody has to comment like I condone or not what he said. Like just let him say what he wants. And if
I do think though, like we're at a little bit of a flipping point in terms of like it felt like a few years ago, like those people, like no matter what our opinions were, like they were canceled,
They were
right?
canceled.
Like it was Like they made that move. The companies, the NFL made the move to like fine him or cancel him or whatever, and it wasn't like even debated, right? There was no due process with it. And
No,
now
that went overboard. I think people are like,
now it's like at least
No.
like no, like the people that are freaking out are like extremists and like
Who do you think the biggest athlete that's been canceled, like
athlete
or sports
or
sports person or
there-
even athlete? Who do you think that just like quickly during that time when like canceling was happening on a regular, like who was the most shocking?
That's a good question. As far as sports go,
Kyrie, it cost him like $100 million, right? I mean,
100%. And Kyrie is another guy. Like he's just an interesting guy, and he says weird things.
Yeah, he's
but he's actually like, if you listen to him talk, he's a very humble, he's educated, and he speaks well. He's like eloquent. But I think like a headline would be like flat Earth or like,
Yeah.
But now like the Kyrie with COVID, dude, I almost like just look up to him now. Like,
yeah, well, he was right,
awesome.
right? But again, like you can't, like it cost him $100 million,
It really
right?
did.
Like his stance on COVID.
He couldn't play in his own game, and he could attend somebody else's game. So while he was being like in trouble for his own team, he was like going to a Laker game on the court.
It's so crazy. I mean, take that out of the NBA, which is like that's their job. Think about if like you guys had an employee that like expressed an opinion that was like, oh, I'm a flat earther, and you guys are like,
they're done.
Hey, we're calling you in, but like that's so crazy.
I don't know.
That
Alex has threatened a few times
Yeah.
with me.
Like you toe the line. You toe the line.
Zach,
you start.
get out.
He's you
guys have harsh policies at Helm Cap.
We've fired each other many times.
Yeah.
And it's hard to every time doesn't get easier.
Do you guys have like an
Never gets
office
easier.
environment where you guys like play pranks on each other, kind of thing, like the office, like gym?
Oh, we want to be.
One time,
like
like he came in the door and I just punched him in the face on the side. Like, he didn't see me, dude. It was hilarious. I
You
just
loved it?
jacked him.
Oh, I was on the floor for hours.
We were laughing. We don't do many pranks around here. I mean, we have some jolly jokes and things like that.
Yeah, a lot of inside jokes. Otherwise, we'd tell you guys. But
My
it's
problem
like,
is me and Alex, we office right next to each other, but my voice doesn't carry very far. And so I'll be like, Alex, I'll talk to him, and then you won't hear anything back. And he can talk, and I can hear what he's saying.
Do you
So
think
it really
he
frustrates
might
me.
be hearing you and just ignoring?
yeah, no, Zach he won't raise the volume of his voice. So it's like he's never going to hit enough volume to get out of his door, around the corner, and into my door. Right?
So
Yeah.
do you call?
I call him.
Yeah.
Text him. That's how I meant. Like,
No, this
kids'
is literally
sports
like
games. I
here's-
can't
this
get
is several
your-
times a day. Hey, Alex, and I just hear like a trailing off thing, and so I do ignore the first time. Alex, da 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 da. I'm like, so then I walk up, go up, I turn the corner, and I go into his office so they could communicate with me. But if I want something, it's just like I'm saying it loud enough, and I'm also aiming, because people don't aim their direction of their voice, but you got to hit those ricochets, you know.
You probably know when you have the apnea machine on and you're
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
like communicate with Cassie. That's how I am at all times.
Well, one of the things I was thinking is because oxygen increases, like, you know, the blood flow to your brain, I'm just going to wear CPAP full time.
Like Bane
Like,
from Batman.
I think it's just like I'm at the office and like people just have to deal with that.
Oh, they'll respect you more for it though.
If you go into a meeting with a freaking apnea machine, dude,
Just pull it out.
Is that a power move?
that's a power move. Because you don't have to talk too often.
You got to
But when
stop
when
brushing
do
your
talk,
teeth too. 'cause
When you
if
do
could-
talk,
if you could pull out that apnea machine, you just got this slimy, like, just
This looks like the guy from
Saliva.
what's the
Mad Max or
Mad
something.
Max. That's what I was thinking. It's just like a Mad Max crazy person.
yeah, because when you do go to talk, when you pull that thing off, it must be important.
well, and you haven't talked in so long that your vocal cords are kind of like Zach.
What's for lunch?
By the way, Mad Max coming out.
I know. I'm excited for the new one,
Dude,
man.
I loved the first.
yeah, that was a good movie.
The first one was so awesome. My
Yeah.
heart rate was like going the whole time. You're thinking, okay, you're gonna have like a break. No, it's just a chase scene the whole movie. That's just intense.
I worry that this one can't keep up with that kind of pace, but
yeah,
we'll see. I'm going in just to hopefully it's an adventure.
yeah. As long as it's still like the same in the same vein. I don't know if he can keep up the same like chase like pace, but it looks awesome. Apparently, he wrote this movie before the other one.
Oh, is it?
Rich
It's
made
a
the
it's a
other one
prequel,
first.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm pumped about it though.
Hey, one other thing I wanted to ask you about being 40 and being older.
Mhm.
Do you guys feel like your bodies are getting slower and less responsive and recovering from injury more?
Less
Or less.
Yeah, like not a huge amount, but yeah, you can definitely start.
Like
to,
you still play basketball
Yeah, I
regularly.
still do the same things, but I haven't noticed. I think that's just I don't think if you're doing it a lot, you don't notice until I think you get hurt, and then it takes longer. Like I jammed my thumb probably 2 months ago, and it's still legit swollen and will not go, like it won't heal. Like you're talking about getting older. So I've always been able to outrun my diet.
Yeah.
Because I know I can work hard, and I still know how to work hard, but it's harder and harder to outrun my diet at this point. So it's got to come to like some tipping point here where I can either change my diet and then do both.
Yeah, we didn't grow up with, like, our house wasn't a great snack house, and so I've never been a big snacker.
You were a big milk family, right?
Oh, big milk.
Yeah.
I'm not any. I try not to be anymore. I like it. But
With the Winter Dairy, were you guys Winter Dairy fan?
Yeah, you go up and open the can on
Yeah.
the porch.
You do love a big glass of milk.
Oh, I used to just love it. I'm trying not to because I don't think it's a healthy thing to do. But it seems weird to drink milk. But my kids,
as an
love
adult.
it.
But
Yeah,
when's the
my
last
kids love it.
glass of milk that you poured yourself?
Oh, it's been a while.
Okay.
Unless look, I'm going back to my routine when I like commit to like, hey, this is how I'm going to eat.
Yeah, he's disciplined.
It's very much like discipline is like a main. I don't want to sound like I'm some like, guy. Like I put on this alter ego sometimes when I'm like getting into my like routine of like, oh, I do my ice bath and my red light therapy. I call that alter ego. What was it? Go Rogan. It's like a hybrid of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
It's like anything he says, I'm like, implement that into my routine. It's like all those things I do. And then if like I talk about him a lot, I feel like the biggest freaking douche.
No, it's yeah. You can, because
If I talk about them a lot.
Yeah, I have, and I do.
And you do sound like a douche.
I actually just got out of my ice bath just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I feel so refreshed.
Yeah. You do the ice bath every day?
No.
See, this is where like I've had a lot of respect for Zach, because naturally, like when I hear like routines and like somebody telling me a structure, like my first instinct, and I think his might be this way too, is like I'm gonna do the opposite of that. Like I'm gonna rebel against that. Even if I'm the one giving myself a structure, like I'm still have that natural like, you don't have to listen to that freaking bitch. Like be your own man, right?
Yeah.
And so, but he's figured it out. Like he's figured out
Well, exercise has become like. It's so boring to talk about, but that's like a part of like every day for me. I have to do it now, and I don't enjoy it. It's not like I'm like those people like, no, I love like I do it to get out, and I do feel way better after I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't feel good doing it. I want it over with, but I definitely know I feel better. Everyone does. When you do something hard, you feel better after. Like that's just how it is.
Dude,
There's
you
no
got to
denying
come
it.
join the Barn Boys.
The Barn Boys. Dude, can I put my application in?
I would love to see
Absolutely.
Alex's, because you have all your PRs on the board.
What
Would Alex just say bar?
When do I get to try the half pipe to, stretch out the old sphincter?
Dude, don't let Mason push you down the half pipe. He peer pressured me to drop in that thing.
Mostly because I wanted an excuse to examine your sphincter.
Yeah, they instantly were like,
Oh yeah,
let me look at
it's
it.
definitely split.
Yeah, it's definitely split, man.
You're
That's,
gonna need
It's chode to chode.
that looks painful. It's funny to picture like us as kids, and like eventually I got up and I just walk home or rollerblade home, like embarrassed, and you
Yeah.
guys just kept like going up and down this half pipe.
Oh yeah, I was like, dude, Zach, get off the freaking deck, bro.
Yeah.
I got to do my 360.
You were pretty talented as a young man.
Yeah, what lightnings did you have? Did you?
He had the good lightnings.
I had-
Mason was
what
rich.
bearings
You used to have you had TRSs for a while.
I had lightning TRSs, and then you know what was really cool? There was like the trick blades came out, and our old buddy Jason Federico upgraded to
What were those called? Not
like Rossies or something.
yeah, Rossies. You're right.
I was like, dude, he's another level.
they had a little where you can grind in the middle.
And he had pants that were so baggy you couldn't see the blade.
Yeah.
So it looked like he was just like hovering across the ground. Like he's a freaking satanic.
That couldn't have been. That like could not have been practical though, right? Like there had to
No.
have been times that he just freaking ate it because his pant leg.
Those are coming back though.
Oh yeah.
Baggy
I'm seeing,
pants?
Jankos are back.
my kid's a 9th grader, and like I'll go pick him up from school, and I'm like, dude, Federico just got out of school. Like he's walking out, Jinko, big chain hanging down.
Do you own like? Because I look back at pictures, like when we were in like junior high and stuff. I'm like, oh, why didn't I like dress better, like do something better? I'm like semi embarrassed of it, or are you like you just own that period?
Well, I think you should reflect more currently on how you're dressing.
Yeah.
so
I'm
not
just
like
kidding.
well in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he like could complain about it, but his mom didn't dress him up as Waldo for several Halloweens.
Alex was Waldo every year.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah, every year it's like, hey, what are you
But
gonna
by
be?
9th grade, like it was too stretchy.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, but we bought you. You've been wearing it since 3rd grade. We knew where Waldo. We knew who Waldo
Meanwhile,
was.
Zach was a boxer like every year. It's like,
I could put on sweats.
why did I think of that?
My
you were-
siblings give me crap every year, but I'm like,
It was like an efficiency thing.
well, first of all, it's not just efficiency. I hate dressing up.
Well, you're a
I
big
hate-
face paint guy.
I hate face paint. Everyone's painting their face and sweating and running for trick or treats and stuff. It grossed me out for some reason.
Just the makeup.
Yeah. So as adults, like in our 20s at least, people were still having Halloween parties, and so but people are also like starting careers. So I'd have to go and like have food next to a guy dressed as Beetlejuice, where he's explaining like his accounting job, and I'm trying to look at this guy in the face, and he's painted like freaking Beetlejuice. How am I supposed to take you seriously?
Nothing's worse than when the employees dress up at work.
I know. It's
That's
like
that's not a
so
thing that should be
when I
allowed.
hit 30, I'm done. I might be like, I just own like, hey, I look like a party pooper, but I'm done dressing up. And the best
I
part about
agree.
Liz, my wife, is
the
she does
only
not-
good part about Liz.
she does not care about how, like, we like Halloween, the tradition, but she doesn't care about dressing up.
Does she make you dress up for other fantasy type things?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
What's her costume of choice?
It's usually like a construction worker because she likes you.
Dang, I have a lot of
I
gear.
dress up
you
like
can-
Mason. So I put the hard hat on.
And then you put on like a 2XL shirt, and it's like a
Yeah.
night shirt hangs down to
Carhartt.
your
Mhm.
knees.
He starts talking about Nab.
Yeah, I think I'm not a Halloween guy myself, but
If Cassie was like, hey, our neighborhood's having this big adult party, I need you to be like a Beetlejuice type character.
No.
We wouldn't do it.
Not a
Say no,
chance.
like absolutely, like no.
I would say I'll just come up with my own costume, and then I'd wear like my glasses and be like,
Be karate.
I'm like just like something simple, like I'm a football coach, and just wear like a hat. that
Oh
has, like, a
yeah.
logo
See, I don't even do
on it.
that. I'm not going to do the half-ass thing. I'm just like,
You're
I'm
all in
just
or all out,
I'm just all out at this
All
point.
out.
Like
100%.
I'm gonna have to make up for it with how good I do at that party, though. I'm gonna have to be very social. I can't be like too cool for the party, though. If I go,
See,
Yeah.
that's the good thing about those. If you're antisocial at the party, you slowly just start turning lights off and walk out. It'd be
Yeah, that's your-
party's.
Is that what you-
Even if I'm at someone else's house,
turn the lights off.
Party's over.
Sorry, Mason really wants to get out of here. Is that what you're gonna do with this podcast?
Yeah, just like unplugged everything.
She's gonna stand up, flip the lights off.
Yeah, that's a tough part with Halloween parties because when you commit to a costume where like you said with the Beetlejuice, like you're in that for the next few hours. Kelsey and I were like, I was Gollum from Lord of the Rings this year,
of
and
course.
I got this like little kind of thong thing. This is a neighborhood party, right? With like my bishop and all these people there, right? And I'm in a skin suit with this thing on, and then after the
uncomfortable.
grand funny entrance, you're just like,
You're
I'm just freaking
Exactly.
hanging out.
And then she
Like,
has to have a serious conversation about someone investing in your company or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that,
like-
and you're dressed in this freaking skin suit. Look at that Gollum.
Like, oh yeah, no, Nvidia, I shorted it. And they're having a tough time with everything that's going on.
We had a guy for work, so he had just barely started with us like a month before Halloween, and we're like, okay, we're just gonna tell him that we do a full-on Halloween thing, so he'll show up to work. And so he was an estimator, and we're like, okay, yeah, everyone dresses up, like put a little candy on your desk, and everyone will kind of like go around and like score each other's costumes, and the winner gets a prize. So I showed up to work that morning, and he turns he's there. He's like, hey, he turns to see my costume, and I'm normal, and he is like to the like level 10 Jack Sparrow. like eyeliner, freaking hanging necklaces, the boots, the whole thing. And he's like, you asshole.
Oh my God.
And he just freaking went the rest of the day, just freaking Sparrow.
And during that time, there was only two. You're either Jack Sparrow or the Joker.
Yeah.
Every other person was the same costume then.
It was so good.
Oh, that's classic.
He quit like 4 months later.
Yeah.
And like didn't trust us. So
There's another lawsuit.
yeah.
I do feel like an idiot.
Are you a neighborhood social guy?
Yeah.
Like you go home and like neighbors are out. You're like, instead of walking in the house, you're gonna go chat with them, kind of thing.
More like I'm just friends with a lot of people in the neighborhood. I'm not like I don't like walk around, but yeah, I do. Yeah.
I'm kind of known in my neighborhood as like the
Just, like,
not
closing the
social.
door.
Well, you have the
Yeah.
Barn Boys,
Yeah.
and then who else you need besides Barn Boys?
That's it, man.
Well, you're asleep by like 8,
Yeah.
right? So it's like you don't even hit that twilight time.
See, Liz hates going out. Like if I'm in the neighborhood or like go to church or whatever, like I get lost talking to people, and I'm sure they want to stop talking too. But like Liz is like, all right, let's go. Like she
She was like tugging on your shirt to like
Yeah.
get you out of there.
Liz is
She's
well, what did
she's
you?
the worst.
I enjoy.
What do you growing up? What were your thoughts about my dad, Brad Green? Like, were you
Oh,
scared of him?
I was 100% scared of your dad. I
Yeah.
mean, not scared. I respected your dad. Like, I also thought like, yeah, he was cool, but like enough to where like you don't say the wrong thing around Brad Green.
Yeah.
Um,
I kind of feel like I'm falling into that same thing where my kids' friends are kind of scared
which is
of
so
me.
funny because maybe Brad, just like you, were like, if they really knew you, like, you're just another guy with an apnea machine.
Just another dad with a freaking sleep app. So look, here's the thing: is like my kids' friends. I'll ask them. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Green." And I'm like, "Hey, like,
What did I do?
loosen up around here." And then the cash like, "Yeah, my friends are all kind of scared of you." And I'm like looking back, I'm like, I know my friends were scared of my dad.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the kids called my dog. He said he called my dog Rowdy a dick because he like bit him. He's like, "Oh, you're a dick," and hit my dog. And my dad's like, "Get the hell out of our house."
That kid doesn't come back.
And he would never come back over. He was terrified.
Yeah, the best story is like when you guys were like in your 20s, your family would do like a staycation in
Oh, yeah.
Salt Lake. So you go to a hotel, but everyone would come. And so you're like, hey, our other buddy called, is like, hey, I'm in Salt Lake. I'll come visit you. And Mason's like, yeah, cool. So he goes to this hotel room, and Mason's dad, this is like their staycation. So he hadn't seen James for a long time. And James like, hey, Brad, how are you? He's like, oh, this is a family thing. Get out.
Yeah.
And James just like
straight
left.
up. He's like, this is a
The best part about
family."
Mason, because like if they happen to us, he'd be like, Dad, chill out. Like Mason'd be like, yeah, you heard the man. He turns on you.
I did.
The Greens will turn on you so fast.
I did. And I was like, yeah, James, why are you here?
That's a great point. Great point, Dad. This is a family trip.
Yeah. My parents were like very much loved having the people at our house, like our friends. They're like, yeah, have them over. But it was like, hey, you guys got to fit inside this. Be
I'm the
downstairs.
same.
Do your
I'm
thing.
100% the same way. Like I kind of always thought like, oh, I won't mind like my kids' friends coming over, but if they're not cool, I'm not nice to them.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, I like going to your guys' house. I felt freedom.
Yeah.
Like
My parents were never home.
I would go over there and it was just like a free for all. I was like, this is amazing. This is like, I
No
had
structure.
I had very little parenting from my parents because I was the youngest of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So they had given up. But like my brothers and sisters were like, they played the violin. They all got 4.0s. They were like clean cut. By the time I was there, like I was like long hair,
Yeah.
C's across the board. And like, I didn't play any instrument, no accountability. My
Yeah.
mom was like
Whatever.
hanging out. My dad was freaking just like checked out.
Yeah.
But I still had like at my house like the Green family rules.
You had your
Yeah.
base. We were just kind of a free for all family. I mean, there was one month where I was like, I'm not eating any food this month. I'm gonna go 30 days with just popsicles. So 30 straight days of just. I get those 2 stick popsicles. I was down on those things forever, dude.
Was there not like a structured dinner time?
No.
Absolutely
no,
not.
Never.
If you could go back to any historical event, just witness in person, where would you go and why?
Some point where there's like seeing America before it became like a thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a part of that. Like all of the 13 colony time. Like
Yeah.
that's more of what I'd like to be. I just went to Boston recently and I freaking loved learning about like Benjamin Franklin and all that. I think living in that time, those guys were such like captains of industry, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like figuring out how it's going to function, how it's going
Yeah.
to work. I would like to be a part of that.
Yeah, it'd be fun for like until like all the other stuff, like where the bathroom stuff, sleeping stuff,
Terrible.
all that would suck. But just to witness it, it would be pretty awesome. I don't know if they felt like I'm sure. Do you think they felt like this is like, we're having a moment here? This is like,
I think they did because, like, I mean, they knew history. They're all super educated and they knew history extremely well. They knew that, like, at the time, right now, it's really easy to look around and see like all these democracies and fake democracies and like things that it's pretty common. But back then, like, there wasn't anything besides kings and dictators, right? Like that was kind of it.
Well, I think when they would like get together and have like meetings of like, hey, how are we going to solve this problem? I'm pretty sure they all left that meeting going home being like, dude, we're changing the world.
yeah. But to get all those minds, all those really, really strong personalities on the same thing is like a miracle.
Well, they all turn up like they end up hating each other, right, in ways, but also like I think once they hit a wisdom.
So you would go back to revolutionary time,
Yeah.
like witness something there.
Yeah, be part of that, but like that lifestyle would just be terrible to live in.
Yeah.
But just to be a part of it and
It'd be
see
cool
it
to
kind of come
witness.
together. But dude, like I think about Benjamin Franklin going back to England, like how many times he came and went.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like that's no short
That'd be
voyage.
And he was like pretty old, I think, like
Yeah.
during that time too.
I can't imagine anything worse than sailing across like continents back then. Like you guys were talking about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
And, like that is my hell. Being
Really?
on a boat with like it is brutal.
Well, like,
Seasick, motion sick,
a
being
lot of times
trapped.
Yeah, a lot of times like they wouldn't even come up top. They would like keep them below.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben Franklin's getting
No, Ben Franklin's like
he's getting
he-
like
I
an
mean, he-
upgraded suite.
He
right?
literally just did like the. I mean, he didn't Ben Franklin
'Cause he was
come up
the
with
first-
the Gulf. Yeah, the Gulf Stream. He found the Gulf Stream. Like he like had seen these whales like how they're traveling, and then they like invented a way to figure out like where the Gulf Stream was.
Yeah, I
That was
think.
Benjamin
What
Franklin.
a guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I
he
mean,
did.
I don't know if he's claiming a lot of things he didn't do, but he did a lot.
Yeah, I can't think of anything worse.
Huh.
Like if there's bad weather on like a cruise ship, oh man,
Yeah, while you're eating your freaking cheeseburger,
it's terrible.
it's so upsetting when you're trying to like get your Caesar salad together and like
Dude.
there's a little turbulence in the water.
It is kind of fun to watch like the Disney cruise productions on stage while they're going through like rough seas. They're like falling off and
oh.
like the whole thing gets kind of
Dude, it gets like kind of dangerous because you'll have like most stuff's fixed, but you get on the upper deck and like a big wind or like shakiness and like
Yeah,
You're going on a cruise soon, right?
I go on a cruise. Yeah, like well, next year we're going on a cruise.
yeah, I've got a big cruise planned.
Yeah,
in
Alex has got a big
October.
one.
And it's transcontinental, so it would stress you out. But I freaking love
Don't
it.
stress you out.
But no, getting back to this place I'd go, and this to me is like for sure exactly where I'd go would be like Roswell, just post World War II, because like just to figure out like to be there, because back then it was a lot looser. The Area 51 was a lot looser, so it's like you for sure would have seen at least what like they found, whether it was alien or not, and like what's
So
going on there.
you are a little more into conspiracies than
Well,
you.
That's like past conspiracy. Like we know, like there's too many.
What do you
accounts.
think you see when you go there?
No, I think you see. I think there's some sort of like craft that they found that kind of jump started a lot of like technological advances in this way. And there's too much. For years and years, I like didn't want to go there. Like I didn't want to believe it. But lately, like there's too much like eyewitness testimony and like even like the U.S. government being like, hey, we don't know what this is or what's going on, right? Like, I mean, you see like that one like little pill
Yes.
thing that's like flying around, right? It's like, we can't explain this. Like, we know this is like legit. We just can't explain it, right? So things like that, I would love to go back to that point.
Have you looked much into like the Bob Lazar?
Yeah, I listened to that the Rogan podcast. Was like as much as I did. A lot of it too, though, is like those lumberjacks. You remember they got like taken. So I think there's like I'm not advocating like this happened, but I think there's more. It's like Kennedy's assassination, right? Do I think Kennedy was killed by his own government? Probably not, but there's as much evidence that he was than that he wasn't.
Yeah.
We were raised to not trust lumberjacks, though. I mean, that's not a trustworthy trait.
That's why I never wear flannel in your presence.
Yeah, that's
dude.
not a trustworthy trait. Yeah, if a guy isn't flannel, I'm like,
I saw the way you looked at me when I wore flannel. I was
trust
like,
this guy.
dude, something's up. Okay, well, let me ask you this: if you think that like those conspiracies might be true, do you think that those are like real things that happened on this earth, or do you think those are parts of like maybe this is more of like we're in Matrix?
Yes,
and those are.
I always do the simulation with Mason, but
Yeah, I think there's like a very strong case that we're just like plugged in and watching stuff. So, but it would just be that's still a weird thing to add into like the
But, like,
simulation.
that's a
right?
glitch,
Like,
though.
hey, yeah,
Like-
exactly. Like, hey, by the
it's
way,
a
there's
cool glitch.
everything.
If you create a video game, make it a little more interesting.
Well, it depends on what you were after, right? So, like Mason's his like simulation is going to be structured, right? Like the gravity is going to be exact, and like things aren't going to change, and there's no aliens that can get here, and like all those things, right?
Mhm.
But mine is going to be probably a little more chaotic. That's why I don't think it's a simulation.
Everyone's running around with freaking swords.
For
It's
sure, exactly.
elves.
There'd be magic. Like this isn't my like I know I'm here. Like
Do you-
I
do
think
you-
therefore I am. But I think it might be someone else's simulation.
Do you
that I'm in.
speak Elvish?
No, dude. I do. I think
Wanna be
I
Kelsey.
yeah, exactly. If Kelsey, like nothing could cause me to get a divorce, right? Like I love my wife and she's like perfect for me. But if there was a girl out there that spoke Elvish, then it would
have to.
push me to that brink.
Yeah,
you
you'd
know?
have to leave.
It would push me to that brink.
Dude, I respect that. At least you know what your limit is.
Well, she does too, right? That's why she keeps me like away from Comic Cons and
What's your love language? Like if you wanted Kelsey to show you
just
the way that you want to be
like
loved.
every single dude, right? It's just like dig your hands in, right? You know, like just physical.
That's all it is.
He wants to get pause. He wants pause on.
I'm a words of affirmation guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Not I want her to tell me how great I am, but I want her to be appreciative. I'll say thank you to her for things, hoping to get a thank you back.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
hey,
So it's
thanks for all you do around here. And she's like, yeah, you're welcome.
All good. All good.
Yeah.
I'm a service guy. You do something for me, I'm like, I'll just melt in your hands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's big for me. If Liz brings me back like a cookie or something or like a drink, that goes so far.
You're like a little kid.
Yeah. It's like I need anything.
Little snacky.
Yeah.
Little snacky shows you that we love. Oh, that's
So
nice. See, I'm in a predicament here because I don't know what Cassie's is.
Oh,
Like,
I'll tell you.
you know?
Yeah.
Is it physical?
She's called into the pod a lot.
It's too physical.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
Well, because like I'll ask her, like I read the book and I was like, hey, you should read this and like kind of give me some pointers, you know, like what do you think? And she's like, she actually told me, she's like, none of these chapters embrace who I am. And I was like, this is a straight up Rubik's Cube of how to love my wife. So I tried to do this combination where you do all of them. I'm like physically pleasing her and emotional and talking
Everything.
how good it is. Like, you're amazing at this while we're like, and then I'm like giving her a gift simultaneously.
Yes,
like, unwrap this gift while we make love.
Yeah.
You know, then it's super confusing.
Yeah. And that didn't
That's
work.
hard.
Doesn't go anywhere,
you
especially
put a lot
because
of
like
work for
I
you.
had
You
the
need to space
CPAP
them
machine
all.
on the whole time, and she was like, "This is too much."
Yeah. You get really pawy.
Pull
when
out
you get
that
that
mouth
mask on.
guard.